It's time to take care of business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. Once again, here are your hosts, Marty Pay and Clay Kerner.
Yeah, now, I'm not recommending for every future president that they take a shellacking like I did last night. I'm sure there are easier ways to learn these lessons, but I do think that this is a growth process and an evolution.
A growth process and an evolution. I love that.
You can sure tell he wasn't using a teleprompter. He stuttered over his self.
This is Clay Kerner and Marty Pay on Taking Care of Business, Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. You know, it's interesting. I've talked to Clay a couple times about, occasionally, rarely, something may happen where you can't get a hold of your guest. And so far, we've been unable to get a hold of Jane, so we'll just keep on talking until we do.
Well, Jane sent us a lot of information, and let me just go over something she sent in. She said she was going to talk about this today, that the voters need to be engaged. And the House of Representatives did change hands, but the Senate didn't change, as you all know. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Personally, I think it's probably a good thing that the Senate didn't change, because now Obama can't look back and say it's all the Republicans' fault.
Yeah, I agree with you, because here's, and actually, when you look at things the way the Founding Fathers designed them, they really didn't want. At that time, they didn't have parties. That was fair. That was something that didn't happen for about 20 or 30 years afterwards. But it's really not designed to have one party rule. The great thing about two parties, and one party having one house and the other party having the other chamber, is that you can look at this and say, okay, now we've got a balance of ideas and concepts. Rather than one party just steamrolling everything they want through Congress, which is what we had in the last 2 years. And the great thing about the Republicans having the House is, as Kevin McCarthy said, now we have the purse strings.
Right.
So, and in that article you're referring that Jane did a couple days ago on WorldNet Daily, she was talking about what we need to do is we need to keep the heat on, because unfortunately what happens a lot of times is politicians a couple weeks after the election, they forget.
Exactly.
And that's because we forget.
I really enjoyed one of her lines, though. She said, one of the biggest problems for Republicans is Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, who, in addition to being exciting as a warmed-over meatloaf, is a big spender and established insider.
Right.
So Senate Republicans need to get a new leader, is what she's suggesting.
Oh, great. Okay, Goose is behind the glass, and he is waving at me. We have Jane Chastain. Jane, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Hey, Marty. Sorry I'm late. I just flew in.
Oh, great. Okay, well, no problem. I'm glad we got you. We've already introduced you and everything, so our listeners know all about you.
Okay.
So,
what can I do for you?
Jane, you're a pilot, right?
Yes.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Did you fly in yourself?
Yes.
Wow. What do you fly? What kind of plane?
Today we were flying the Piper Dakota. It's a low-wing, four-place aircraft.
And you own this plane. It's not a government plane, right?
Yeah, no, we own this plane, and we also own an open cockpit bi-wing airplane called a Tiger Moth.
Wow.
Now Jane,
British World War II trainer.
Now, Jane, I have to prep this with something, okay? Clay is really into flying. In fact, he's going to tell you about a plane that he's about to buy. And I didn't tell him you knew anything about flying because I wanted to save this as a surprise. So he's biting at the bit, I can tell.
No. I want to get Jane going on the politics.
Okay, you're going to pass on the plane?
Right.
I can't believe that.
Right.
Okay. Well, we've got her for another 20 minutes or so. So if that ends up, being part of the conversation. So, Jane, we were talking about your article. That was a great article that you did in WorldNet Daily this week.
Well, thank you. I can't stress the importance enough that we have to watch these guys like hawks. The first press conference that I saw of the Republican leaders, including Mitch McConnell, who will probably, unfortunately, still be the Republican leader in the Senate. I mean, he was talking about, well, we know we can't repeal health care, but we might be able to do this, this, and this, and nibble at some of the worst parts. I mean, you don't go into a fight signaling that you're going to lose. You go in there with all guns blaring.
Sure.
And Mitch McConnell has been part of the problem. He is part of the Republican establishment. Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
We're here.
He is part of the Republican establishment, and he's a big spender. The good news is he really isn't committed to anything wholeheartedly in terms of agenda. He's more just committed to staying in power. And so he will put his finger in the wind, and if there are enough new folks that come in to get with some of the conservatives that are already there and demand a real conservative agenda of going after the spending, he will follow along.
Well, Jane, what do you think about, because watching the contrast, John Bonner really sounded strong. And he
no compromise.
Yeah, no compromise on Obamacare.
Well, he did, but I have to tell you that I've been watching John Boehner a long time, too. And I think John Boehner is better than Mitch McConnell. He, again, is part of that Republican establishment that to his credit, he has passed over, he's refused to take earmarks. And we've got to absolutely put our foot down about earmarks. I mean, Republicans, if they had any guts, if they had any commitment, they would ban them forevermore. Amen. But Boehner isn't even talking about that, even though he's never taken one. He's talking about a moratorium on earmarks. We don't need that kind of weak-kneed conservatism. That won't do it. We're in a crisis. So we need to be calling our member of the House and Senate and saying, ban earmarks. Forget the moratorium. Ban earmarks. I know that they're only a small part of the federal budget, but Marty, when you start to clean out the refrigerator, you have to start with the part that smells.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we started doing that with the past election.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And we had over 70 incumbents defeated. Altogether, there will be 90 fresh faces when you add up the members that are retiring. But remember, in the House and Senate, there will still be some 440 old members that have been there a long time, most of whom need to be defeated. And so what happens is the young people come in, they're the new kids on the block, and unless they really caucus together and that are committed to changing Congress, changing the House of Representatives, and changing the Senate, not just being a part of it, and it's not going to happen unless you and I stay engaged. We have got to watch them. There is a wonderful organization that can help. I've got a link to it on my website, janechastain.com. It's the National Taxpayers Union Foundation. And if you plug into ntu.org, you will know exactly what your member of Congress is doing in terms of spending. And they've got a wonderful little thing up there called Bill Tally. And this is really one of the most valuable tools we have. It keeps a record of every bill a member has sponsored or co-sponsored. And they take the number of bills that they've sponsored that would actually cut spending, and they deduct those from the amount of bills they've sponsored that will add to our debt, and that gives you their grand total of how much they've sponsored or co-sponsored, what it would do in terms of balancing the budget and added to the national debt. And it's really, really important. The thing that worries me the most, there's a representative, and I believe he's in Redlands, California. His name is Jerry Lewis. You're probably very familiar with him. But he is one of the biggest spenders, and I fear that they would put him head of the Appropriations Committee because he's in line. We need to be calling the new Speaker Boehner's office, and we need to be demanding that they not put big spenders like Jerry Lewis as committee chairs. We need to start this right away, the day they take office, or actually it's not a bad time to start calling John Boehner's office now. He's the minority leader right now in this lame duck session, but you can call him at his minority leader's office, and you need to be sending a message that we do not want these big spenders like Jerry Lewis put in as committee chairs. This would be an affront to the people of America that sent a loud message in this last election, and we mean business. We're going to watch them. And the other thing is we need somebody like Michelle Bachmann in leadership. Right now, they've still got the old boy network going. Mm-hmm. And Michelle Bachmann was a leader in the conservative movement. She helped elect more Tea Party candidates. And we need to send that message to the man who will be the next Speaker of the House.
You know, Jane, one of the young guns is our Congressman, Kevin McCarthy, and it looks like he may be the whip. But just out of curiosity, after you and I talked yesterday, I checked Kevin, on National Taxpayers Union. He got an 87%.
Okay, anything below 90 is unacceptable.
Okay, I was going to ask you
Because the
that.
National Taxpayers Union, the only bone I have with them is that they grade on the curve.
Okay.
Mainly, if they didn't, there would be nobody left.
Right.
But in anybody below 90, I mean, they're not serious.
Right. Okay.
So
That's what I was
you
going
need to be
ask you.
on him.
Okay. Jane, can we hold you through a break?
Yes.
Great. We'll be back in a minute on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.